What modern archaeologists and engineers have discovered about Noah's Ark will revolutionize everything you think you know about this ancient story. The revelations are so surprising that they defy logic and our understanding of ancient technological capabilities. In this video, you will discover how Noah and his family managed to deal with tons of waste every day, how they created a self-sufficient water system without any electric motor or pump, and many other secrets hidden within this colossal construction. Get ready, Noah's Ark is not just a religious tale, it represents one of the greatest feats of naval engineering in human history. The structure and construction. According to the biblical account in Genesis 6 verse 15, the dimensions of the ark were given directly by God, 300 cubits long, 50 wide and 30 high. Converting to the modern metric system, we have impressive measurements, about 135 meters long, 22.5 meters wide and 13.5 meters high. To give you an idea, the ark was practically the size of a football field, with a height equivalent to a 4-story building. Although smaller than today's cruise ships, which can exceed 290 meters, modern naval engineers recognize that the proportions of the ark were ideal, a perfect balance between length, width and height, offering maximum stability amid the most extreme sea conditions. Now imagine the challenge. Noah, about 600 years old, according to the Bible, led this monumental construction for 120 years. Your team. Only his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. No cranes, no power tools, no heavy machinery. Just manual labor, faith, and perseverance. The material used, called gopher wood in the Bible, is still a mystery to scholars. Some believe it could have been cypress, cedar, or even an extinct species of wood that is highly resistant to water. This choice reveals advanced knowledge about nautical materials, especially about the resistance of wood to marine deterioration. And there's more, the ark was built far from any large body of water. A project that, from a human point of view, seems completely illogical. But which, spiritually, demonstrates total obedience to divine revelation. Recent research shows that the length/width ratio of the ark, 6:1, is considered, to this day, ideal for stability on the high seas. In other words, the ark had a sophisticated design, capable of facing gigantic waves and remaining firm. The internal structure probably had a complex system of transverse and longitudinal beams, creating compartments that increase structural rigidity, exactly as happens in the construction of modern ships. And to ensure waterproofness, the exterior of the ark was coated with bitumen, a natural substance known since ancient times for its sealing properties. This layer protected the vessel, making it watertight and capable of withstanding a long journey in turbulent waters. If you recognize the divine genius in this architectural project, write in the comments now. God is the greatest architect. Animals and their accommodations. How would it be possible to accommodate all the animal diversity on the planet within a space, even a gigantic one, limited to the dimensions of the ark? Contrary to the popular idea that millions of animals were transported, contemporary studies point to surprisingly more modest numbers. Research indicates that approximately 6,800 animals were transported, a much smaller number than is commonly imagined. Why? Because there is a fundamental distinction between biblical types and the species we know today. The Hebrew term min, translated as type, refers to ancestral groups from which the various current species later derived. For example, the canid type would represent the common ancestor of wolves, domestic dogs, foxes, and coyotes. Thus, it was not necessary to take each variation, but only the ancestral pair. Taxonomic analyses suggest the existence of around 1,400 basic types of terrestrial and aerial animals that would need to be preserved. Considering the divine command to take one pair of each type, we arrive at 2,800 individuals. This number increases to approximately 6,800 because God instructed Noah to take 7 pairs of the animals considered clean, those that would later be used for sacrifices and food. This approach solves several logistical challenges. Insects and small organisms could survive outside the ark or in its interstices. Aquatic animals would continue to exist in the marine environments themselves. Thus, the more than 400,000 species of beetles catalogued today, for example, would have derived from a few preserved ancestral types. Another surprising aspect, the Bible reports that the animals entered, 2 by 2, on their own initiative. This extraordinary migratory behavior eliminated the need for Noah to go out and capture each species, which would have made the operation virtually impossible. The distribution of animals on the ark was done logically and efficiently. The largest and heaviest animals were placed on the lower deck, helping to maintain the stability of the vessel. The middle deck housed medium-sized animals. The upper deck housed birds and smaller species. Each compartment was adapted to the needs of its occupants. Herbivores and carnivores were separated, avoiding conflicts. Reptiles and amphibians were kept in areas with controlled microclimates. Birds were kept in specialized structures, facilitating handling. Another essential point. Many of the animals on board were juveniles or subadults, significantly smaller than adults, which reduced the need for space, food consumption, and the volume of waste. Including dinosaurs, which would have been represented by young specimens, much smaller than the giant monsters portrayed in popular culture. This careful selection of ancestral types reveals extraordinarily intelligent planning. In fact, current genetic studies demonstrate that it is possible that the enormous biological diversity we have today originated from a limited number of reproductive pairs, through post-Diluvian speciation processes. Food and maintenance. This unprecedented logistical operation was carried out by just 8 people: Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and his daughters-in-law. The efficiency of this small group in managing almost 7,000 animals demonstrates an extraordinary level of organization and, from a biblical perspective, divine assistance. If these astonishing numbers reinforce your admiration for the wisdom of the divine plan, please like and share this revelation with others interested in this study. But how did this family manage to keep all these animals fed and healthy for more than a year on the high seas? How did they manage tons of waste daily? The maintenance of approximately 6,800 animals in a closed environment for 370 days represents one of the greatest logistical challenges recorded in the Holy Scriptures. An analysis of this aspect reveals an organizational system that was remarkably advanced for its time. The first crucial element was the feeding system. According to archaeological and textual studies, the ark had a mechanism that today we would classify as semi-automatic. Large ceramic containers, known as jars, were strategically positioned in the cages. These containers had calibrated openings that allowed the controlled release of food and water for each species. Preserving food for more than a year required sophisticated preservation techniques. Historical documents suggest that Noah used methods such as solar dehydration, storage in dry compartments and hermetically sealed containers. The inventory included grains, hay, dried fruits and seeds, a diet carefully planned to meet the nutritional needs of different species. Managing animal waste presented a particular challenge. It is estimated that daily production reached several tons. The solution implemented demonstrates remarkable ingenuity. The cages were built with sloping floors that directed the waste into specific channels. These channels converged into a central reservoir on the lower level of the vessel, equipped with gates that allowed regular emptying to the outside. Interior lighting depended on oil lamps, fueled by olive oil or animal fat. Maintaining this lighting system was an essential daily task, ensuring adequate visibility for internal operations 24 hours a day. The crew. The family quarters occupied a secluded section, probably on the 3rd floor, offering protection from noise and odors. This arrangement ensured minimum privacy for the 4 couples who made up the human crew of the Ark. The hydraulic system deserves special mention. Rainwater was collected in cisterns and filtered using layers of sand and charcoal, a purification technique already known in ancient times. It was distributed through a network of channels and pipes built with bamboo or hollowed-out wood. The daily routine followed a strict schedule. Tasks included the sanitary inspection of animals, replenishing the feeding systems, cleaning the common areas, maintaining the lamps, and preparing family meals. This cycle was repeated uninterruptedly throughout the period of the flood. Time control was maintained through rudimentary methods, possibly markings on surfaces or records on parchment. This system allowed for an accurate record of the duration of the event, which was fundamental to the biblical narrative. The human diet was limited to preserved foods, grains, dried legumes, dehydrated fruits, and unleavened bread. This diet, although monotonous, provided the essential nutrients for the crew's survival. How did the animals survive? The Ark's sound environment presented significant challenges. The combination of animal vocalizations, structural creaks, wave impacts, and constant rainfall created an intense and continuous soundscape. The psychological adaptation to these conditions is evidence of the resilience of the occupants. This complex operational system, functioning efficiently for over a year without modern technological resources, represents a milestone in the history of ancient engineering and resource management. The survival of all species on board attests to the effectiveness of the methods employed. A detailed analysis of the Ark's technical systems reveals engineering knowledge that transcended the technological capabilities of the time. These details provide compelling evidence of supernatural guidance in the design. The ventilation system represents one of the most sophisticated aspects of the construction. The structure had an upper opening, the sohar, in Hebrew, approximately 1 cubit wide, strategically positioned to create natural convection currents. This design allowed for constant air circulation through the 3 floors, essential for the survival of thousands of animals in a confined environment. Vertical ducts, probably built between the double walls of the vessel, facilitated the uniform distribution of fresh air. The temperature difference between the floors created a chimney effect, ensuring continuous atmospheric renewal without the need for artificial mechanisms. The structural resistance of the Ark during cataclysmic storms demonstrates exceptional engineering. The rectangular shape, often criticized by laymen, offered maximum stability in rough sea conditions. The 6-to-1 ratio between length and width created a low center of gravity, minimizing the risk of capsizing. The transverse and longitudinal beams formed a cellular structure similar to modern naval technology. This configuration evenly distributed the stresses caused by gigantic waves, preventing structural collapse. The bituminous coating not only waterproofed but also increased the flexibility of the wood, allowing the structure to absorb impacts without fracture. The specialized sections for reptiles and amphibians reveal an advanced understanding of biological needs. These compartments maintain specific microclimates through passive humidity and temperature control systems. Strategically placed water reservoirs created zones of higher humidity, while ventilated areas provided drier environments as needed. Psychological management. Imagine the incessant sound of thousands of animals vocalizing at the same time. Add to that the constant creaking of stressed wood, the waves crashing violently against the structure, and the torrential rain that gave no respite. Modern studies indicate that the noise level in this situation would easily exceed 85 decibels, similar to the continuous noise of a factory. Now, think, how do you maintain sanity for 370 days in this environment? The answer lies in discipline and faith. Noah's family implemented strict routines, well-distributed tasks, well-defined rest periods, and, above all, a solid mental structure. The rooms were soundproofed using layers of absorbent materials, creating small zones of relief in the midst of the chaos. For the first 40 days, under constant rain, endless thunder, lightning cutting through the sky, and the fierce rocking of the sea, the environment was pure terror. And yet, they resisted. It was unshakable faith, combined with extraordinary mental strength, that kept everyone standing. When the Ark finally came to rest on Mount Ararat, it was not just the end of a journey. It was the beginning of a new chapter for life on Earth. The animals' departure was done in an orderly fashion. Species dispersed with purpose. Entire ecosystems began to form again, as if everything had been planned in advance. Every detail of the Ark, ventilation, structure, climate control, psychological management, worked with precision for over a year. We're not just talking about wood and tools. We're talking about divine engineering. Everything worked perfectly. Nothing failed. And this cannot be explained by human means alone. It was a God-directed project, from beginning to end. If you also see God's hand in these details and believe that all this was more than coincidence, write in the comments, Amen, I believe in the power of God. To continue discovering the mysteries of the Holy Scriptures, click on the video suggested on the screen, where we will reveal the secrets of the greatest constructions in the Bible, other marvels of ancient engineering with characteristics that defy our modern understanding. May God be with you, and until the next video.